So yeah, this is a thing. um, so earlier today, I was just having some spare time with myself, and I decided, well, I've got this in my collection, so I decided to give it a watch. And quite the interesting piece of film history. And I noticed later on today, later on that day, as I'm watching this, yeah, I was just minding my business, just watching this, and then I happened to notice that on the last day of September, they've decided to release a teaser advert for Roger Eggers' upcoming remake of Nosferatu. And as it turns out, from what I've researched before doing this live stream, as it turns out, Roger Eggers is actually very passionate about the film Nosferatu. Nosferatu has highly influenced his filmmaking career. So I think if you ask me, Nosferatu is going to Roger Eggers' transition of Nosferatu is definitely going to be a passionate rendition of the film. It might just be one of the best films of this year, because Roger Eggers, honestly, I have very mixed opinions about Roger Eggers in regards to his filmography, because on the one hand, he is very clearly a very talented filmmaker. I am not going to deny that he has a lot of great passion for the art of filmmaking, which I deeply respect about the man. And I remember seeing films like The Lighthouse and The Northman, and he clearly has a passion for visual storytelling and using myths and psychological ideas and stuff like that to tell compelling stories. But on the other hand, the exact nature of their presentations, as far as myself and others are concerned, can leave a bit much to be desired. Like The Lighthouse was a great film, but on the other hand, The Lighthouse got quite carried away. Hold on a minute. Chat disconnected. Please, while we try to reconnect, you successfully connected. Oh, sorry, something happened with the live chat for some reason. Anyway, what was I talking? Oh yes, The Lighthouse was quite a massive film. On the one hand, it was very ambitious atmospheric storytelling, but on the other hand, it got very disgusting at various portions in the film with very explicit imagery. I mentioned in the past that The Lighthouse was the kind of film that I both love and hate. I mentioned 5 pieces of entertainment that I love and hate. Like, one of them was Death Note, because on the one hand it had a great premise, but on the other hand, it had a very contradictory finale in regards to its lore. I mentioned The Lighthouse as one of the films that I both love and hate. In fact, I might as well share that video with you guys. The video that I made about the media that I both love and hate, and Roger Eggers' Lighthouse is one of them. But it's going to be interesting to see his rendition of Nosferatu, because it's influenced him deeply as a filmmaker. There's just no denying that. Okay, something's going on with my internet. We might have a bit of an error here. Oh, wait, I've got these other things opened up. Sorry, just give me a moment. I'll find the video and possibly share the link with you down there. I mean, seeing the advert, given Roger Eggers' love for the film, it's very clear that Roger Eggers is definitely going to pay homage. Like, having seen the teaser, like, there's this one scene that really stands out in this horror film, and that's a scene where, honestly, it's one of the scariest scenes in all cinema, so it's been said. It's a scene where, like, the main character is in Nosferatu's castle. He's already gotten quite familiar with, like, who he is, and, you know, the combinations of the deals of, like, owning a house and stuff like that. Well, the big house, which motivates the characters in the first place. There's a scene where the poor man's just trying to sleep, but he's it's clear he's beginning to catch on. Okay, this guy's a crackpot weirdo with a fetish for sucking blood. Maybe I should just get out of here. And then he tries to escape his bedroom, but he opens the door and he's just standing there menacingly. I know that people are going to revert to the SpongeBob SquarePants joke of who's flickering the lights? Nosferatu. But still, the original shot in question, it's still so spooky in the way that it's framed. Him just standing there with just that stare, just standing there, especially with that specific kind of character design. Obviously, like this rendition of the Dracula vampire is maybe not as charismatic as the likes of Christopher Lee or some of the other more traditional depictions, but there's something really freaky about this specific vampire design, which I think Roger Eggers is definitely going to take advantage of if he's really that passionate about the original source material. It's the fact that I think this poster really captures it best in many ways. It's the way he's designed. He's got these sort of long fingernails, and he's got these large, kind of glowy, beady eyes. Well, beady eyes means they're small. No, it's these staring eyes, big staring eyes, and his teeth. Now, in concept, like these sort of buck teeth idea can be a really silly idea in concept, but I think that the sort of design choice of like the buck teeth, as well as the sort of skinny frame, it gives him this sort of alarmingly sharp character design, which definitely adds to a sense of how alarming he is. So it can be very alarming in that sense. It definitely stands out to this day. Now, where is that video? There's a video I want to show you guys, but I'm wondering where is it? I have it here somewhere. I think I got past it. Yeah, I think I went past it. Yeah, I went past it. Right past it. Okay, where is it? Ah, here we go. Here it is. All right, here we go. And then going onto the live stream, back onto the live stream. All right, and then just put the link there. Hopefully that works just fine. All right. Really should have done that beforehand. But man, look at me there. Just the lack of a beard, the lack of the established hair. Needing to bulk out in the gym. 5 stories I love and hate. Yep, there's a link. You can click on it for yourself if you want to check out my full thoughts on The Lighthouse back then, at least. I mean, the Lighthouse, it's one of those films that I have a mixed reaction towards, because on the one hand, The Lighthouse does have very ambitious filmmaking, but on the other hand, there's some very disgusting subject matter which really just can really be really alarming. There's some aspects of The Lighthouse that I really respect, but a lot of aspects that really disgust me. Like, I know the whole point of The Lighthouse is to be disgusting and alarming in some way, which adds to the horror element. I get it, but there could have been a more tasteful way of portraying it. I think that was, for some reason, less of a problem in the Northman for some reason, despite that also being a fairly explicit. So I suppose my major concern with this Nosferatu remake, especially given what we've seen of the trailer so far, is that I mean, I know that this remake is probably going to go more all the way with some of its horror elements. Like, obviously, Nosferatu being made in the time period that it is has some very basic as well as outdated filmmaking elements, such as using some very simple, fun stop motion gimmicks that people from a beginner's filmmaking class would learn, as well as the typical like over the top theatrical acting to make up for the fact that there was no magnetic technology to pick up sound at the time. It heavily relies on its lighting, its gothic framing, its visual storytelling with the characters, and it does the visual storytelling and stuff like that really well. It certainly works. The fact that it is such a simple story, and the way the story is told is very similar to reading like the Grimm's fairy tales, and just some of these timeless kind of stories. So there's a charm in watching films like this. You can definitely see this as a historical relic, although something that I didn't realize about Nosferatu until I think after I saw it was the fact that this was what do you call it? An unauthorized, this was an unauthorized adaptation. For some reason, these people had the daft idea to not get permission from the author of Dracula in order to make this particular adaptation of Dracula. And so because of that, they had to take a lot of liberties with the names of certain characters, even like bogging down the whole Van Helsing character, even though Van Helsing is, one of the most crucial characters in this kind of storytelling. And apparently this film almost never existed. Basically, because of the copyright stuff at the time and the fact that this was an unauthorized adaptation, and the widow of the Dracula author wanted every copy of this film to be burned. And yet, despite all odds, this film survived just by a few prints. And this film made it down in the film history in horror cinema. And it's been very influential in the way it uses lighting, visual storytelling, and just its overall atmosphere with the sort of German expressionist style. I could definitely see why this kind of film would influence Roger Eggers, especially having seen The Lighthouse and The Northman. I'll be honest, I've yet to watch his witch film, but I have seen a YouTuber analyze the sort of esoteric themes of Roger Eggers' movies that he's made so far. I suppose that does make sense because according to this Wikipedia article I've looked up on Roger Eggers, it says in terms of influence and style, and I quote, Eggers has cited the 1922 German expressionist horror film Nosferatu and the 1983 documentary From Star Wars to Jedi, The Making of a Saga as his biggest influences, films that have inspired him to become a filmmaker. In a 2014 interview with filmmaker, Eggers described fairy tales, folk tales, comparative religion, and mythology as his primary interests. His films are characterized, unsurprisingly, by their folkloric, mythological, and historical elements because those kind of stories play a timeless role in forming societies and influencing people's behaviors and stuff like that. And it's interesting to review his movies from a psychological perspective, especially given the fact that according to his personal life biography here, it says that Eggers is married to Alexandra Shaker, a clinical psychologist whom he has known since childhood. So I don't know what kind of role Alexandra plays in influencing Eggers' movie, if at all. But I think with Alexander Shaker being a psychologist, I think it no doubt in some way or another influences Eggers' approach to filmmaking, because there's a lot of psychological analysis you could have from watching his films like The Lighthouse and The Northman. Like with The Lighthouse, it's a blatant retelling of the story of Prometheus, but set to pirate Shakespeare. Let Neptune strike ye dead, Winslow! Hark! And so on and so forth. You can be in a sane side in Canada. You just gotta love Willem Dafoe. And the Northman had a very interesting approach in its story, in that the Northman pretty much just told the Northman was basically a very simple Viking revenge story, and because the Viking culture told a lot of revenge stories, because their culture was very much oriented around honor and glory and about vengeance. So the Northman has had this interesting approach where, on the one hand, you have the story and the characters going through the arcs, like the sort of hero's journey, albeit with vengeance thrown in there. And he's going through these trials and tribulations, and there's some supernatural stuff going on, and that he can only pull out his sword during the night, and he has to meet these mystical kind of people in order to make progress. On the other hand, some of his trials and tribulations could be interpreted as all in his head from the way the film is shot. So this could be interpreted in a multitude of ways. So that's an interesting approach to tell the story. I appreciate what he's doing with telling a traditional Viking story with the Northman, but on the other hand, the Northman comes across as kind of shallow in the end, because and I get it. And Roger Eggers is depicting the traditional Viking story of having vengeance and having the vengeance be fulfilled and then going to Valhalla. Yeah, I get it. But at the same time, vengeance just for its own sake can leave people kind of empty. And to the film's... Hang on a minute. Am I... Hang on a minute. Did you hear that? Oh, no, you didn't hear that, did you? Okay, I might as well repeat that just in case you didn't hear that, because I'm having some technological issues for some reason. Anyway, so the Northman I can respect as being, Roger Eggers' attempt at telling a traditional Viking story, but on the other hand, vengeance just for the sake of vengeance can leave you quite empty. So that's what makes stories like Vinland Saga, the anime show, much more profound, because Vinland Saga looks like it's going to be a typical revenge story like The Northman at first, but then there's a major plot twist that happens at the end of the first season, which completely turns the story around. And Vinland Saga basically challenges these Viking perceptions of lives entirely oriented by vengeance, and saying that love and redemption and construction is far more of a worthy life than one that's consumed by vengeance. Yeah, I mean, I get it. You want to have justice done, but at the same time, you could reconcile with your enemies, and that's much more constructive. So, I suppose, in regards to The Lighthouse, there's quite a lot of depth to the Lighthouse movie. On the one, it can be interpreted as a retelling of this Promethean myth, and the Lighthouse could also be interpreted from a Jungian perspective, in the idea of these two seamen further embracing the shadow, and that would certainly explain the context of the film being about just two men going crazy in a lighthouse and getting more gradually insane as the film goes along. It is quite the crazy film. I've got a lot of respect for what The Lighthouse gets right, but on the other hand, there's a few other aspects of The Lighthouse that It's rather disgusting. Ah, Tekken Combat. Hey! Welcome to the live stream. We're talking about Nosferatu, as well as the upcoming remakes. I'm doing amazing as well. Yeah, I'm doing amazing myself. Thanks so much. Yeah, glad to have your enthusiasm on board. Right. So as I was saying, oh, Roger Eggers, the filmmaker who made The Lighthouse and The Northman, is going to make a remake of Nosferatu, which will come out this December. And having seen the teaser trailers, and given Roger Eggers' profession as a filmmaker, and given his source material influence for this film, I have no doubt. I mean, bro, I have no doubt that Roger Eggers is going to make a very faithful adaptation. Although I honestly have very mixed opinions about Roger Eggers, because on the one hand, he should be one of the best filmmakers Hollywood has in today, but on the other hand, there's certain aspects of his storytelling that I'm kind of mixed about, because with stuff like The Lighthouse and the Northman, he's clearly shown to have very great understanding of atmospheric pacing and visual storytelling. The Lighthouse does such an excellent job at telling a story just primarily through building this atmosphere, just the way the sound is implemented, the way the characters are established without saying much for like the first few minutes, just so we can focus on the atmosphere and just the sense of getting familiar with the island and the building premises that we're going to get familiar with for the good portion of the film, the sort of the sound effects, this the interesting filmmaking choice of having the siren constantly blare in the backdrop, and the fact that whether quietly or loudly, the fact that it's always there definitely adds to the psychological depth, sinking into insanity, because you get the sense that, yeah, that would annoy the characters, so that would probably annoy you too. So yeah, that's and thankfully it's not distracting enough to make you lose focus from certain topic matters. But it's and it's interesting having the film be interpreted from a Promethean perspective. There's even this one shot where Robert Pattinson's character is having a dream that he and the other character played by Willem Dafoe are like naked or something, and they pose in a specific manner where Willem Dafoe has these glowing eyes as if he's representing the lighthouse, and that's actually meant to be an homage to a picture, an overt visual reference to this painting called Hypnosis in 1904 by Sascha Schneider, right, a German painter and sculptor. Right, so Hypnosis, that certainly would add to the sort of maddening thing, and that the sense that he's like Willem Dafoe's character is grabbing onto Robert Pattinson's character, telling him to stop, and given the way he's holding the wrist, and then staring at him, giving him a sense of intense intense kind of stuff. And there's all this stuff like the mermaid tempting Robert Pattinson's character into lust. Like there's all these contributing factors in this. Honestly, The Lighthouse is just this mostly two-man show, and I could easily see like The Lighthouse being depicted in a theatrical setting. This could easily be a good theater piece, given how minimal it is. But on the other hand, man, there's other aspects about The Lighthouse that I really don't like. Like the way they depict Robert Pattinson's character falling into lust. Like, okay, I get it. Robert Pattinson's character is a morally questionable figure, and he's alone, and he sees this attractive mermaid statue, and he starts forgive me for the language, but he starts jerking himself off to this statue to get some sense of ecstasy in this environment that he doesn't like to be in. Like, I get it, but there could have been a much more tasteful way in depicting those kind of scenes. You could have had this. I mean, the film has enough abstract visual symbolism. Like, why not go all the way with it? Like, why not have it so that Roger Eggers is like in this sort of neurotic kind of dream where he's like depicted as sort of naked, but we don't have to see any private parts. He embraces like the mermaid, but the mermaid has this sinister laugh and like ensnares him in some kind of trap. Like something like that would work a lot better and perfectly visualize sort of the trap that lust brings you in. I think that would be great, but instead, oh boy, the film has very explicit porn scenes to the point where it even has, I can't believe I'm saying this, mermaid vagina. Like, no. I don't want to see a mermaid vagina. I don't. That's gross. I get it. He's meant to try to up the grossness, but good grief, be more tasteful, man. Like there could have been a better way of depicting it. Like my description back there, where it could have been like a neurotic dream where he hugs the mermaid, but then the mermaid has a sinister laugh, and which because she's now trapped him in this. That would have been a much more better way of establishing the destruction of lust. So, given that valid critique, I'm very much concerned about Roger Eggers' adaptation of Nosferatu because, given the teaser trailer I've seen so far, there's implications that there's more explicitly sexual implications between the wife character and the Nosferatu vampire character, even with some flashes of like a sex scene in the teaser. So I'm concerned. I'm very deeply concerned about this. I mean, it's a trap that Roger Eggers could fall into again. So I'm very concerned about that, as well as some other potential implications about some rather grim topic matter. And look, I get it. Like, not every story needs to be necessarily happy. Like, it was very interesting for the Lighthouse to have this cautionary message. It just had some disgusting elements, but the Lighthouse does have a lot of elements that genuinely do work. What I really like about The Lighthouse is its visual storytelling, its sound design, the character building between these two seamen who are trying to get on with their jobs, and the way they keep descending into madness. I especially like the film's use of dark humor at times. Like, I remember watching The Lighthouse, and there's a rule of principle I have for comedy in cinema. You know a joke actually works well when you're laughing and the audience is laughing too. It shows that the filmmaker intended to make the audience laugh and they laughed, so it worked. So I had that experience with Top Gun Maverick. I had that experience with a few other movies I could mention. I had it with The Lighthouse, where there was this one scene where how did it go again? Oh yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was a scene where the two sailors decide to get kind of drunk, and then they get into a mad dance routine. Willem Dafoe is telling Robert Pattinson's character, "Dance, dance, Winslow, dance," and Robert's character gets really carried away with the music, and apparently he even memorized this entire sort of pirate song like off by heart. He's just getting really into it, really into it. Hi, Baron. So like Baron's getting Robert's getting like really into it, like, and just in the midst of like this intensity of like the dancing goes, and then it just rapidly cuts to the two men just slow dancing, and like That was great. It's really funny. Just and then having them, and then after a small conversation later, then they say like, "Okay, you know what we should do to pass the time? Let's have a fight. Okay, let's have a fight." Like they're getting to fisticuffs. Like they look like they're really going in there, and then it just rapid cut to them just hugging each other, just having a casual talk. Like that is hilarious. Just the sheer contrast of that is just brilliant dark comedy. Transition to one really intense moment to this one complete opposite. All this just set in the same night. Like that is hilarious. And there's other examples of this brilliantly executed dark comedy, like where well, it actually has fart jokes that are actually done well. um, Willem Dafoe's character keeps farting to the point where Robert just has an outburst and rants about his farts. And there's another scene where Robert has to get rid of the sewage, but because of the wind direction, it sort of just lands on him, and he's going, ah! And it just cuts away to some other scene. I like honestly, it's really fascinating how it can combine comedy with the seriousness of the two men going mad in a way that genuinely worked. Like I think there was another scene where like the two of them they run out of alcohol, so as an alternative, they literally use like was it tarpaulin or whale oil, which is very, very bad for your health. But they drink it anyway, and then you just see the two of them just hysterically laughing under a table, only for the waves to just poof, crash in. And there is also that Promethean aspect where there's kind of a motivation for Robert's character to go up to the top of the lighthouse. He's fascinated by the beauty of the light. He wants to have the light, but Willem Dafoe's character denies him access to it, and it's implied to have some kind of mystical power of some kind. And the film could be interpreted in many ways. There could be a legit supernatural aspect to it, or it could be part of the men's madness, or it could be both. But whatever the concept, whatever happens, Robert basically crosses some moral lines in order to get to the light of the lighthouse, which Willem Dafoe was trying to prevent him from going to. So by the end of the film, Robert gets to the top of the lighthouse, and the light door opens up, and Robert sees the beauty of the light. But at the same time, I think it probably because he crossed some moral boundaries. Or whatever, however this works, the light from the lighthouse becomes too overwhelming to the part where it starts to presumably sort of burn and torture him from the inside out, and then Robert starts to tumble down the stairs all the way from the top to the bottom. He's just lying there, and then we flash to white, and then we transition to Robert on the beach naked, getting eaten alive by seagulls. And then the film ends with the sea shanty song. Oh, me gonna girls, doodle let me go. Oh, doodle let me go, doodle let me go. Oh, me gonna girls, doodle let me go. I also like how The Lighthouse was filmed in a purely sort of box frame. Not only did the box frame get you immersed in the time period that the film is set in, but it also adds to the claustrophobic feeling of the film. So it's a film where, on the one hand, yes, this is full to the brim with so much filmmaking genius. My days, more people need to make films like this, with that kind of pacing, that kind of atmosphere, that kind of inventive use of storytelling with the filmmaking tools you have at offer. This is brilliant. But on the other hand, some of the subject matter is rather questionable and disgusting, and that's why I had so much mixed feelings about Roger Eggers as a director. So I have no doubt that he's going to put his on passionate into Nosferatu, but I have a few concerns about his specific rendition because, on the one hand, looking at the teaser trailers, like the way they've replicated that famous scene where the main character trying to get out his room, and then the Nosferatu is just standing there and then walks in. Like, it's a legitimately creepy scene. So they have upped the utter terror of the scene where instead of seeing the figure in in sort of spooky lighting, now you in this modern remake, you just have a complete shadowy silhouette in this dark corner. It's like, wow, that is even more terrifying. Like, he took a scene that was already scary enough as it was and just amplified it. And from what I've seen from the teasers of the remake so far, it seems like it's going to be more or less like the original 1922 film, but all the horror aspects are amplified. And it does make sense given the fact that modern filmmaking has increased its resourcefulness of practical and computer-generated special effects compared to back in 1922. It'll up the horror, it'll up the bodily elements, but at the same time, I'm very concerned about the way it will like depict some sort of sex scenes or maybe some other sort of grim ideas. So hopefully, it's I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's probably going to be one of the better films of 2024. I'll tell you that. Like, from what I'm saying, this filmmaker has a lot of passion, a lot of great talent, but man, like he's got sort of mixed kind of messaging, as well as like, I know the point of his movies is not necessarily to tell happy stories, but to tell sort of these sort of creepy kind of myth kind of stories. Well, Northman was more epic in scale, honestly, but even though it's, I'm not asking for every film to like have a happily ever after. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that Roger Eggers has some pretty questionable elements in his films that deeply concern me. So I suppose it'll be interesting to see his rendition of Nosferatu. I think I'm probably going to go see it in the cinema because having seen this movie, there certainly is quite a lot of striking elements to Nosferatu, even though there are a lot of elements that are quite dated. I think if you watch the film sort of as a historical piece, and as well as just accept the very simplistic storytelling, I think you'll definitely appreciate sort of the sort of style and visual approach that this film has. I mean, there's plenty of elements that you just either have to accept or just overlook if you want the full immersion, such as like the over-the-top theatrical acting, like one scene where like a lady like gets up and then calls out the name instead of maybe like waking up and calling out the name in sort of a natural way. Like, natural acting is not really meant for the sort of silent film era. Because there was no sound to record, they had to rely on very theatrical, over the top kind of acting. And having taken part in drama myself, I've actually helped out with some theatrical productions in the past, as well as gotten involved with filmmaking. So yes, I know firsthand the difference between theatrical acting and filmmaking acting. Because as you well know, when it comes to with filmmaking, you have the sound and the visuals necessary to sort of getting close to the intricate details. So the acting is a bit more natural that way. But in theater, people are not going to be able to perceive everything that's being able to go on. They'll probably be looking close, like, what's going on? So in order to reach the people at the back seats, you have to act big. You have to be bombastic. You have to be bold. You have to be confident in your body language so that the people at the back go, ah, right. So that's what they're portraying. Right, right. I mean, is theatrical acting silly? Yes. Yes, it is silly. But does it convey the message clearly to the people at the back? Yes. So it works. And theatrical acting can work really well, especially in the context of like ballet and other sort of dance forms. And I mean, certainly it makes the pantomimes more fun. I mean, theatrical acting done rightly can make for some great, profound storytelling if handled correctly. So there is that aspect. As mentioned earlier, there's the film has some very basic stop motion effects that a beginner's filmmaking class would teach you how to do. And there are some moments that may come across as unintentionally hilarious with like how quickly some things move. I think especially with like this sort of wagon, which kind of goes like kind of like a Gary's Mod thing. Or one person I've read about might say the way Nosferatu peers out of the ship might come across as kind of goofy at times. And plus, people might get distracted by that one SpongeBob SquarePants joke, which I wasn't even aware of until earlier. There are certain elements that you'll just need to sort of accept. There's also some particularly strange choices of lighting, at least with this version of the film that I saw. On the one hand, on some areas it gets black and white, but then sometimes there's a yellow filter, and other sometimes there's a pink filter. I presume this is probably because that was the way the actual film was made and they had to make use of their resources at the time. I assumed it had something to do with the visual storytelling, and it might. On the one hand, maybe it is meant to be establishing certain moods, or maybe this is just another restriction of filmmaking at the time that they just had to work around. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me given the fact that this was a unauthorized adaptation in which every copy was nearly destroyed. So yeah, I mean that certainly does make sense. There are a few elements of this film that I would call into question in regards to from a narrative perspective. There is this one scene where right in the first act where the main character is going on his journey to the castle where the Nosferatu vampire lives, in order to fulfill the deal of getting the lord of the castle, the vampire, to own the big house. But this was all a scam from the hunchy guy in charge, the hunchy pudgy guy. There's a scene where the man expresses, "I'm going to this location," and everyone in the pub goes, as if to say, "You're going to that location. No one goes there. That's a dark, scary place." And of course, like it's hinted throughout the film that the man keeps ignoring the warnings, even warnings from a book he read, just going, I don't need the warnings. Everything's going to be going my way. I'm going to get paid. I'm going to get laid by my wife. There's this one particular. So that's the setup, and there's this one particularly odd scene where the pub owner cautions the guy not to go to the castle, but then says something about a werewolf, but then he sort of laughs it off as if it was some kind of a joke. I thought, okay, and it's never really brought up again. And then all of a sudden, in the next shot, you see this hyena wolf thing that apparently scares off the nearby horses, and then the guys are like gathering the horses again. The werewolf thing never really comes into play again for the rest of the movie, so I just think that's a bit odd and a bit unnecessary. I think it would have been simple enough to just have the characters go oh, you're not supposed to go there. And then cut to like the horse scenes. Apparently, the Nosferatu story is very different from the Dracula story, if I'm not mistaken. There was, oh yeah, there was another plot element that I found pretty questionable. Apparently, in the book that was describing the sort of evil spirits, it said that the salvation would come only if a maiden without sin would lure the vampire in such a way that he would forget the cockerel crowing once. And I just think, where on earth is the basis for that? Is that like meant to be some kind of? It's never explained where that's from. I mean, I get it. Like, I suppose thinking about it now, maybe it's some kind of prophecy that if it's fulfilled, then bam, the vampire gets defeated. But this particular story, it's implied that the Nosferatu vampire could just walk around in broad daylight. Don't worry, it's not like Twilight where he just dazzles in broad daylight. I think it's implied in the film that he's just made weaker in the daylight rather than fading away. Hence why he probably gathers power from the coffins full of earth he lies in that plague-ridden ship he intentionally infests. But where on earth did this element of the pure maiden defeating the vampire come from? Where? I don't really get it. Is that some kind of prophecy thing? And sorry, the chat disconnected. Please wait while we try to reconnect you. Sorry, that's another error, but for the live stream's going on anyway. Yeah, I call that's a bit into question. It's kind of an odd element of the film that's never really explained that much. You see, at least with maybe I'm just overthinking it. Because with a lot of fairy tales, there's that whole miraculous true love's kiss, which breaks the spell. True love's kiss usually breaks the spells of evil. That's a basic enough concept to get into. And there's other implications of the Grimm's fairy tales that these divine miracles will eventually defeat the darkness. So I guess you do have that going for this Nosferatu story. I suppose there is sort of this divine, prophetic, miraculous aspect, the fact that the purity of the maiden will vanquish this pure evil. But in this specific manner, I just think it's a bit of an odd, specific way. You're like the book's intentionally endangering the livelihood of this maiden to potentially get severely harassed by this vampire or who knows what else, just for the chance to kill him off in the broad daylight, all because the vampire forgot about the cockerel crowing once. Yeah, good luck getting laid, Mr. Dracula. I mean, it's a bit of a questionable, elaborate way of defeating the villain, especially one that endangers the maiden in such a way. I just find that questionable. Like, it's not entirely implausible. I just find that a bit questionable. Like, where did that assumption come from? Is that from like a divine prophecy or something? I suppose it does make sense. Like, maybe it's like divine authorities, like making note of all these evil spirit things and that they can only be gone by divine stuff. Typically with evil spirits, don't you just usually go like the power of Christ compels you and that would be enough? Like, why this specific method that would risk putting this lady in potential sexual danger. And that's another thing that I find rather concerning about Roger Eggers' upcoming adaptation is the fact that he's going to amplify all of the horror aspects, including the sexual elements. So that's concerning. It's very concerning. So I can understand why people are excited for this upcoming remake. I mean, this did just play such an integral role in film history, despite its controversies of being an unauthorized adaptation. On the other hand, there's a few questionable elements. So I could say more about the Nosferatu film itself. I haven't gotten myself too familiar with this particular filmmaker, but I have seen this film obviously earlier, as well as been watching. I have watched some of two of Roger Eggers' films in the past, The Lighthouse and The Northman. If there was ever anyone who would adapt Nosferatu in the modern day, I think Roger Eggers would be it. Roger Eggers said he was influenced by the film, and given the trailer so far, Roger Eggers is doing a fantastic job of adapting the source material into a remake. And no doubt there's going to be a lot of people comparing the two, trying to figure out which one is better, or maybe they'll be equally good for several reasons. Maybe the Nosferatu classic and the Nosferatu remake by Roger Eggers will both be equally good for differing reasons, or maybe have some pitfalls. Okay, I'm going to make a prediction now. So Nosferatu is definitely a well-told story, which definitely thrives from its simplicity, but Nosferatu definitely has some outdated filmmaking elements, which, to be fair, are not altogether the director's own fault. It's just the limitations of the filming craft at the time. But there are a few plot elements I find a bit questionable, and a few character interactions I find a bit odd. So those are the weaknesses of this movie. I predict that Roger Eggers' remake is going to fix these mistakes, but will then create new mistakes of taking certain elements like the sexual elements and maybe some other grim elements to the extreme. So it creates new problems, like the film being a bit too much on the nihilistic side, not altogether nihilistic, but just a bit more nihilistic. It could play up the fetish aspect a bit more. So, that's my prediction, at least. But I could be wrong. Maybe Roger Eggers is going to learn from his past mistakes as a filmmaker and actually give us something tasteful within the context of a horror film, mind you. I get it. It's horror and it's meant to be disturbing and scary, but at the same time, even horror can be done in a dignified, tasteful way. So I'm not the kind of guy who gets easily offended by a lot of stuff. Clearly, it's just that it's moral standards. They come into play when it comes to film critique. I mean, there's a reason why so many people scold Star Wars The Acolyte and Rings of Power, because they not only fail on a technical basis, they also fail on a moral basis. But that's a topic for another time. What do you guys think of the Nosferatu and its upcoming remake? Have you seen the classic Nosferatu? Are you looking forward to the remake? You know what I should have done? I should have invited a friend of mine to watch this, because there's a friend of mine who commented on one of my posts who'd be very much looking forward to this movie. As passionate film buffs. I mean, this is the kind of film that film buffs would be getting into. So there is something else to consider. The fact that Roger Eggers is going to bring Nosferatu back into the mainstream. I mean, that's not always the best thing. I mean, just because something goes mainstream, that doesn't automatically mean it's going to be great. In fact, as we've clearly seen, whenever there's been a lot of blessings of things going mainstream in that it becomes popular, especially if it's the right kind of thing. But if things become too corporatized, then there's a risk that the source material that the corporatized companies could try to adapt, it could become rather soulless because they're focusing on, pure business rather than actually telling a good story. So I suppose there's that risk there. But clearly that's not the case with Roger Eggers. Roger Eggers clearly has all the resources and the means to tell a great story. So, that's a relief for the standards of modern Hollywood. My concern now is just a case of how well is he going to tell the story? Because even amongst really talented filmmakers, we still have to keep up our stances on film critique, especially in this day and age where toxic positivity is literally encouraged in entertainment fields. And those are two words that you never thought you'd hear together. Toxic positivity. How can positivity be toxic? Well, I've been hearing rumors from that everything we've been hearing about Ubisoft, for example, was sadly true. In modern day Ubisoft, the reason why the games like Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows is currently failing is because they refuse to listen to constructive criticism. Constructive criticism which could actually help them improve their game. There's this superficial egalitarian understanding of positivity going around, which is unrealistic. Constructive criticism is actually practical in the fact that when criticism is done constructively, it can actually encourage the person being critiqued to improve for next time. This is why people show early drafts to estate agents and to friends and to other writers to take notes and compare and gather some potential understandings of how to improve, and then often craft. Hold on a minute. Okay, we're back to business. It's the reason why it's been disconnected. It's pretty well trying to reconnect. Successfully connected, right? So there seems to be this weird connection thing. Anyway, it's the reason why people who make video games use these beta tests, alpha tests, and get players to play test their games to see if they actually function and work. It's the reason why filmmakers have early screenings and other stuff like that to test if what they're making is either good, and if there's any problems with it, they go back to the drawing board and just start to keep improving on the craft. You can't have toxic positivity if you want to make a genuine work of art. You have to listen to constructive feedback. Otherwise, if you don't listen to constructive criticism, you're never going to improve. So I'm grateful that filmmakers like Christopher Nolan and Hayao Miyazaki and Roger Eggers are clearly passionate about just telling a good story and using the power of filmmaking to get the job done. But at the same time, with Roger Eggers, it's the subject matter and the implications of the theming is what deeply concerns me about his movies. Because on the one hand, having seen The Lighthouse and The Northman, it's very clear that he is a talented filmmaker. He has the passion, he has the resources, he has the drive, he has the genius insight onto using every tool that he has at his disposal from like even aspect ratio in the case of like the lighthouse, as well as taking advantage of all these different tools and resources of like sound design and visual storytelling and atmosphere and all these things that come into play when it comes to filmmaking. He has the potential. He has what it takes to make these masterpieces. But what's holding him back, as far as I'm concerned, is his very explicitly gross subject matter, as well as the rather grim theming implications of the film. So that's what concerns me about his Nosferatu remake. I mean, he's he definitely got what it takes to make the remake. I mean, he loves this movie. Like, there's no doubt about it. He loves this movie. It's just a matter of whether he's is he going to create new problems? Well, we'll wait until the film comes out and we'll see for ourselves. I will say, I've heard rumors that Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise, the dancing clown in the It movies, he was picked as the Nosferatu vampire. When I found that out earlier, I just thought to myself, brilliant, brilliant. That is brilliant casting, because this Nosferatu vampire has a very distinct look about him, this very distinct sort of sharp kind of design to him, this sort of hunched, sharp design to him. I think Bill Skarsgård is the right person to pick because he had that kind of toothy grin. I can't quite do it, but he can. He had that weird, toothy, childish grin that he used for Pennywise, and that could easily be translated really well for the sort of signature toothy character of the Nosferatu vampire, especially given combine that with the stare. I think Bill Skarsgård, that was a brilliant casting choice. And it was interesting to see the guy who played as young Tolkien in that Tolkien movie be the main character. Yeah, it's just interesting to have him around. What was his name again? The guy who played the Tolkien. He was also in. I think he was also in the Hunger Games movies. What was his name again? Nosferatu. The guy's name. Nicholas Holt. That's the name. Yes, there we go. It's Thomas Hutter. Right. Something I really respect about the trailers is that from the trailers I've seen so far, specifically the trailers, they don't actually reveal the full monster. I think the key to making a really good horror advertisement is that you don't reveal the monster, because if you reveal the horror monster too early, then it's not really going to entice people. It's not really going to scare people. So that kind of mystery will really entice people to get in and to see what kind of horrors are going to await there. That's what made stuff like the original Alien trailer so effective, especially with its promotional title, in space, no one can hear you scream. What is Nosferatu going to involve? I guess only time will tell. But do any of you have anything to say regarding the Nosferatu movie? Speak now or forever hold your peas. And then take them out the freezer and then put them in a pan of boiling water and then boil them up and eat your peas. I suppose I could open this up and look into the manual if you want. I mean, feel free to say something in the live chat. I'd be interested to get a conversation going regarding subject matter of the movie. This Blu-ray copy of the movie that I got has this sort of manual in it. Might as well just take a look at it just for the sake of interest. Certainly some artsy fartsy quotations in here. Okay, might as well just read this thing out. Nosferatu is singular among Weimar films, or is it Weimar? It's Weimar because it's German, right? Weimar films because it enacts its tale of horror, the first screen version of Dracula. Wait, wasn't there a first screen version of Dracula? Wait. There was a depiction of Dracula that came before that, right? Hold on a minute. History of on-screen Dracula movies. Dracula Universal Film Series. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for. Does this mention Nosferatu? All right. Okay. So I'm reading this article on Dracula Universal Film Series. Let's see. While Nosferatu 1922 was the first significant vampire film, it's only developed its considerable prestige, influence, and impact over a period of time. Right. Wait. There was a vampire film before Nosferatu, right? Was there a vampire movie before Nosferatu? List of vampire movies. I think there was. Aha, I thought so. The Lost Dracula film made before Nosferatu. Aha. There we go. I thought that was the case. I guess Nosferatu was like the first, like, most influential vampire movie. Let's see here. A list of vampire movies. Dracula, 1920, Russia. Aha. Okay, there we go. And then there was Dracula's Death in 1921 in Hungary. And then there was Nosferatu in 1922. And there was a remake of that film in 1979. But honestly, I can't really say much about the remake because I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the remake. Have any of you seen that remake? Yeah, believe it or not, this upcoming remake in 2024, December. It's not the first remake of Nosferatu. There was one that existed before in 1979. People always like revert back to the classic as just being crucial to film history, even if this 2024 film succeeds well in the box office and maybe even outperforms the classic. People are still going to revert to the classic because this Nosferatu movie just simply would not exist without this classic. All right. Yeah, the premise. I'm just reading this premise on the Wikipedia for the Nosferatu remake. Roger Eggers' Nosferatu is a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and a terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake. I mean, certainly that was true in the original, but I think that definition is definitely going to be amplified given what I've seen so far. Oh, wow. Just reading this filmmaking information. To prepare for playing the eponymous character, Skarsgård lost a significant amount of weight. Oh, there you go. Bill Skarsgård is officially a method actor akin to Christian Bale, everybody. There you go. There you go. There have been people who said that the castle in which Nosferatu was shot in is haunted. It's as if the very existence of this movie seems to exemplify evil. I mean, that would certainly be the case given the fact that it's an unauthorized adaptation. I mean, it's very much a shame that that people didn't get the rights to have the permission to make this movie. And certainly a shame for the castle to be haunted instead of just being a fun backdrop for the filmmakers to get in there. I mean, I respect the fact that they've managed to tell a story about good overcoming evil in the end. And that's a great thing. I mean, we all need to endorse that in our lives. Long may good always overcome evil. It's just a case of whether we're willing to submit to the good in the end. Let's see. All right, so the first screen version. All right. It's not, Nosferatu is not the first screen version of Dracula. This is an inaccurate source. Largely in natural settings rendered with emphasis. The texture of Nosferatu is infused with dusky skies and restless seas, trees, and branches like flourishing claws. Yeah, there is quite a significant emphasis on the wind affecting the trees throughout the film, I've noticed, actually. The woods, the mountains, and perched castles of the rugged Carpathian terrain, narrow cobbled streets, and close-packed gabled houses on the town and the Baltic. Oh yeah, that was another questionable aspect of the film. There was this one fanatical servant of the Nosferatu vampire who kickstarted the whole plot in the first place by encouraging Hutter to go to the man who wanted to buy the house. The sidekick's just fanatical about having this vampire come back. But there's a scene where the sidekick seems to escape and then gets chased around by the townspeople, only to then have him get back in the cell. I mean, what happened? Did he get caught and then get back in the cell, or did he escape and deliberately put himself back in the cell? That just seems a bit odd. And then wasn't it implied that the town people were blaming Hutter? So why weren't they chasing him about? So it's a wee bit confusing in that manner. So maybe I just need someone to clarify it to me. Although, given the fact that there are these German title cards, I deeply appreciate the fact that the film actually takes time to pause long enough for people to actually read them. That's great stuff. Let's see. Let's see. Nosferatu the vampire is not so much a character as a symbolic personification of that fearful world out there. This vampire is a different conception from the original Dracula of Bram Stoker's novel, or the familiar wickedly seductive aristocrat of other stage and screen versions. This, for one thing, not a sexy vampire. No, not in the slightest. Which hasn't kept commenters from offering sexual interpretations of him nonetheless. Well, yeah, especially given the fact that Nosferatu interacts with Hutter's wife in such a specific manner in the film. There's another really creepy shot in the film. Well, I mean, there's a few creepy shots, like especially given by the end of the film where Nosferatu goes up the stairs. You can see his shadow enthusiastically just going up the stairs. And then it's a scene where like the young woman is willing to go through whatever pains necessary to defeat this vampire whatsoever. There's this really creepy shot where you see the vampire's sort of shadow aim for her heart and then just sort of grab it. and then she starts to faint as if he's got some kind of evil spell on her, and that only this miracle of the sinless state of the maiden combined with the vampire forgetting about the cockerel's first crow, only that's going to defeat him. And so right before the cockerel crowing, there's this one shot where she's lying in the bed and he's like perched next to her, and the way it's shot, it makes the Nosferatu vampire just look like sort of this wild feral animal who's just preying on its victim. And I don't. He clearly wasn't sucking on her blood there, but I don't think he was sucking on her blood. But just from that angle, it looked like he pretty much was, and just the way his eyes are just sort of the way he sort of hunkered down, it's so eerie. Just him just posing himself like some kind of animal, like some kind of a bat or a wolf or a wildcat or something like that. But obviously something much more carnally worse than that. Like so yeah, there is that to take into consideration, and something to keep in mind. I genuinely believe that there is a difference between depicting evil and endorsing evil. As long as we don't endorse evil, we can depict and expose evil, you know? There's something else I've noticed about this filmmaking note about the 2024 film. Let's see, it says here, Skarsgård also amount of weight, worked with an opera singer to lower his vocal range. Oh, wow. And spent up to 6 hours a day having prosthetic makeup applied. Speaking of his experience, Skarsgård said, "It was like conjuring pure evil. It took a while for me to shake off the demon that had been conjured inside of me." Yikes. That sounds like a you problem there, mate. I mean, the whole point of movies like this is to portray and expose evil, not necessarily to become it. That's quite concerning, mate. I hope you're well, Bill. I really hope you got the demons away from you. That sounds concerning. Right, so certainly sounds like this film's going to be successful in some ways. And alongside the third live-action Sonic movie and the World of Rohirrim, this is probably one of the most anticipated movies of this year, most likely. Let's see here. Just catching up with the details. I think, honestly, I've said all I needed to say. And if I were to just continue on any further, I'd just be repeating myself. I think I could just read this a wee bit more. Let's see. Oh, yeah, right. The sexy number. Loomingly thin, with long predatory arms culminating in claws, tooth front teeth protruding like a rodent's. Yeah, like rodents. Yeah. I mean, the buck teeth could have easily come across as kind of goofy, but yeah, now that I think about it, yeah. Yes. It's all coming together. Yes. Nosferatu looks like a rat. Yes, that's what makes him so alarming. Yeah, that makes sense, especially the fact that he associates himself with the plague rats in the film. Oh, man. Why didn't I catch on to that before? No wonder the buck teeth were so alarming. No wonder the sort of sharp design looks so alarming. That makes sense now. And between pointed ears, a pale bald head like a bear skull, Nosferatu monstrously suggests a cross between a human skeleton and a rat. His skeletal aspect, the way his figure evokes the skull and bones beneath the skin, helps establish that this vampire is a specter of death.
His resemblance to a rat makes him more pronounced. It makes more pronounced his association with pestilence. The rats he carries with him in his coffins filled with Transylvanian earth he needs for his diurnal rest. Diurnal? That's a new word. What on earth does that word mean? That's a new word. Diurnal. What on earth does diurnal mean? Diurnal. Oh, during the day. Ah, right. All right. There you go. The power of expanding your vocabulary and grammar, everybody. Let's see. Carry the plague everywhere he goes, both carrier and spectre. A rat, assuming the proportions of the Grim Reaper that will claim us all. Nosferatu is a figure of death, ingrained in life, death emerging from the depths of nature. From Caligari to Hitler, Siegfried Kröcher puts an apt question about this vampire. Is Nosferatu an embodiment of pestilence, a symbol of destructive nature? Or conversely, does the image of pestilence serve to characterize him as a bringer of destruction? Does he stand for death metaphorically, or does death metonymically follow in his path? Kröcher argues against the former and for the latter view, which fits in with the thesis of his thesis banned book for him. Nosferatu is like Caligari or abuse, one of the possession of tyrants and Weimar cinema and pestilence, like the grass that no longer grows, where Attila's horse has once set foot, and one of the attendant traits of this tyrant figure. I mean, I could go on and on just reading this, but I don't have the time and the effort to bother with that. I'm sure if you want to look into this for yourself, you can. And apparently these days, you can actually view the entire movie for free on YouTube, which I didn't realize. But hey ho, I still endorse physical media if and where they're possible. And hey, Blu-ray. Let's go into perks too. Right, I'm probably gonna have to go very soon. So if there's anything that any of you would like to say regarding Roger Eggers and Nosferatu and the remake, please let me know either in the comments or in the live chat. I'm here, so I'll be happy to talk to you. Is this even working? Yes, it is. Just double checking. I noticed there's a few other people watching this. So comment section's right there. So feel free to say something. But if not, we could just end the live stream here. And if you want to convey your own thoughts about Nosferatu, both the original and the remake, or maybe if you have something to say about the 1979 version, because I'm not very familiar with that particular version, I'd be curious to know. So by all means, please inform me if you can. Honestly, I'm just the kind of guy who just likes having these kind of conversations. Anyone want to say something in the live chat? Last chance. No? Okay. Maybe there was just all these comments being spammed in there, but for some reason I didn't get the chance to read them. I suppose if that's the case, maybe I'll find out either one way or the other. Thank you so much for watching, all of you who bothered to watch this live stream. Thank you for all the support that I've been getting a lot of the time. Oh, good. Oh, actually, I think someone else might be joining us. Might be. So maybe I might just stick around for a little bit longer just to have him come in. He might come in, but then again, he might not. Maybe he's gonna watch this later on. Maybe, just maybe, he might be able to come on here because this particular person's quite
got quite a passion for film history. I've even addressed him in one of my videos, particularly the Batman video. So if he gets here, that would be fantastic. But if not, hey ho. And it doesn't look like he's going to go in here. He's probably going to watch it later and just talk to me about it later or something like that. Or at the very least, he's just going to respect the fact that I bothered to even make and address this in the first place. Just going through this social stuff. Yeah, I see no reason to keep dragging this on any further. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you for taking your time to listen to me. If we've learned anything about this whole topic of Nosferatu, it's keep a sharp sense of discernment, and always remember, as Joshua19 says, be strong and courageous. If these vampire guys exist, you don't need to be scared of them. After all, they're very much allergic to garlic. My favorite food. All right. Scott Stinker signing out. Good night, everybody. Good night, Dr. Nick. All right. Now, who's the guy that's been flickering about with the lights?